He was a slave trader, a violent man, a man who cursed God so brutally that even hardened sailors were shocked. And yet, this same man would go on to write the most famous hymn in human history, "Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, that saved a wretch like me." This is the story of John Newton, a man whose life proves that no one is too far gone for God to rescue. It's a story of storms, chains, regret, and redemption. And if you've ever wondered whether grace could reach you, this story will answer that question once and for all. John Newton was born in 1725 in England. His mother was a deeply devoted Christian, but she died when John was just 7. His father was a strict sea captain, so at just 11 years old, John was taken out to sea. And that's where his rebellion began. He drank, he fought, he cursed, he mocked God openly. He once said that he sinned with a high hand and made it his mission to drag others into sin with him. He was flogged, thrown in chains, nearly killed in mutinies. He even became a slave himself for a short time after falling out with his crew. But the lowest part of his story was still to come. Eventually, John Newton joined the transatlantic slave trade, transporting human beings in horrific conditions across oceans. He described African slaves as cargo. He packed them into ships like animals. He watched them suffer and die, and for years he felt nothing. This is the part of the story many skip over, but it's essential, because this is what makes grace amazing. In 1748, while sailing back to England, Newton's ship was caught in a violent storm. The sea raged. The vessel was tearing apart. Death felt certain, and in the chaos, the blasphemer, the slave trader, the rebel, cried out to God, "Lord, have mercy." He survived. And though his conversion wasn't instant, it began that night. Something shifted. He would later call it the hour I first believed. After the storm, Newton began reading scripture. He slowly gave up gambling, drinking, and cursing. He even started praying and studying theology. But here's the hard truth. He kept working in the slave trade for years after that night. Why? Because change takes time. Conviction isn't always immediate, but God kept working on his heart. Eventually, Newton left the trade, renounced slavery completely, and began studying for ministry. In his 30s, he became a pastor, and for the next decades he preached the gospel that had rescued him from himself. In 1779, John Newton, now a transformed man, sat down to write lyrics for a New Year's Day service. And what poured out wasn't poetry, it was a confession. "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see." He never imagined the song would leave the church walls, but it did. Today it's sung in churches, stadiums, funerals, prisons. It's been recorded over 7,000 times, and it's reached people in every corner of the earth. But Newton didn't just write hymns. He used his voice to fight the very system he once supported. He mentored William Wilberforce, the British politician who led the charge to abolish slavery in England. And in his final years, Newton published a powerful pamphlet called Thoughts Upon the Slave Trade, where he called himself a former wretch and begged the world to end slavery. His words struck a chord, and in 1807, the British slave trade was finally abolished. Just months later, John Newton died, at peace, forgiven, and free. John Newton's life wasn't perfect. It was messy, slow, full of contradictions. But that's what makes it beautiful. Because grace isn't for the already clean. It's for the wrecked, the stained, the slave traders, and the prodigals. He once said, "I am not the man I ought to be. I am not the man I wish to be. But by the grace of God, I am not the man I used to be." That's the gospel. So what can we learn from John Newton? No one is beyond redemption. God's grace changes everything, no matter how far you've fallen. You can't rewrite your past, but God can write a new future. You may not be writing hymns or standing before kings, but your story can still echo with amazing grace.